Two things singles should know prior to marriage. Two topics I would like to elaborate on is number one, being unequally yoked, and number two, being well informed. We usually hear about this in church and in Bible studies, but what does this actually mean? What does it mean to be unequally yoked? So, what is a yoke? A yoke is a wooden bar that joins two oxen to each other and to the burden they pull. An unequally yoked team has one stronger ox and one weaker. So you can get that image in mind, or one taller and one shorter. The weaker or shorter ox would walk more slowly than the taller, stronger one, causing the load to go around in circles. When oxen are unequally yoked, they cannot perform the task set before them. Instead of working together, they are now at odds with each other. So, what does the Bible say about being unequally yoked? When we think about animals, these animals being unequally yoked, we can see this unity, we can see this harmony, so that makes it difficult for them to move forward together. Let's look at 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14. 2 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 14 says, "Be not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship had righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion had light with darkness?" We know for a fact that unbelievers tend to have different worldviews than those of believers. These views include things on sin such as premarital sex, morals, and values. While some may say or believe that it is not a sin to marry an unbeliever, it can, however, be unhealthy in the long run to the fate of that believer. These are some of the issues that may arise within a marriage that is unequally yoked. How children should be raised, tithing, church attendance, social life, and prayer time. How children should be raised. A believer may prefer to make prayer time a priority in the life of their child, whereas an unbeliever may not see it as a big deal. Also, there may be differences when correcting their child. They may not come to an agreement on each other's methods of correction, and this, however, will cause arguments to occur. Tithing. Some unbelievers resent giving of tithes, and you would most popularly hear them say things like, "I'm not giving my money to any pastor. These people are crooks." So they totally abhor and resent giving of tithes. Church attendance and ministry involvement. There may be issues where the unbeliever does not think it is necessary to fellowship. Right? So he or she might say things like, I don't need to go to church to praise the Lord. I can praise the Lord from home. I can pray to the Lord in my heart and he will hear me. I don't need to go anywhere. Or he or she might find that you are spending way too much time in church. Social life, excessive drinking or partaking in activities that may be uncomfortable to the believer. This might bring about disagreements and displeasure between couples. So you can have a partner who, he loves to drink and he drinks excessively, especially when going out and, partaking in social gatherings and stuff like that. And you as a believer would see that, he's not using his discretion and he has to know when to stop, and clearly he doesn't, so this can bring about, this can pose as a problem. Prayer time. While a believer might make prayer time a priority, you cannot force your unbelieving partner to pray. You should not argue with your partner to pray because it can cause resentment. If you chose to marry an unbeliever, hopefully he or she will be transformed as you continue to live a life committed to God. Now, there is a probability that the believer can help change the unbelieving spouse in a marriage, but there may be many challenges ahead before you eventually get there. Now, my second and last recommendation For singles is to be well informed and educated on married life before entering into such a union. Marriage is like having your own company. You, as the entrepreneur, main goal is to generate profits. In order to keep the business on top, you've got to keep reinvesting in your company. Same with a marriage. You've got to keep reinvesting by reading books, listening to podcasts on YouTube videos, and even speaking to married couples who have been married for over 20 to 40 years. Their information would be most valuable. So it doesn't matter your budget, as you can see. There are many alternatives to gaining information and educating yourself before entering into a union. Being educated or well informed on relationships provide you with an opportunity to learn new skills and tools that can strengthen your marriage. Even after marriage, you should not desist on finding ways to improve your relationship or learning new things that will help you to better your marriage. We can always improve our communication skills, connect on a deeper level, and learn more about each other. Many couples wait until their marriage is struggling before they delve into counseling or seek out relationship advice. But many of these issues we face can be preventative. So we asked the question, where can I find information on relationship education for marriage? The answer is by reading books, listening to podcasts and watching YouTube videos, going on websites, going to online conferences, interactive classes and workshops and events. Now, there are many books out there, so these are just a few that I personally would recommend. The Five Love Languages, The Secret to Love That Lasts by Gary Chapman. The Five Love Languages, How to Express Heartfelt Commitment to Your Mate, also by Gary Chapman, originally published in 1992. Hold Me Tight by Sue Johnson. The Seven Principles for Making Marriage Work by Dr. John Gottman. Smart Couples Finish Rich by David Bach. And of course, the Holy Bible. These are just a few that I would recommend. As much as we would like to think that love is all we need to make a marriage last, unfortunately, that's not true. There are couples who love each other and have separated, stating clearly, we love each other but simply cannot live together. So, we can see it takes a lot more than love to provide a lasting marriage. If your partner also is not frugal with his or her finances, this can pose as a threat to your marriage, especially if you both have a tight monthly budget to abide by. So the book Smart Couples Finish Rich, as well as Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki are good books to read. These books can provide valuable information that can help reform the mind of a spendthrift. And saving the best for last, the Holy Bible. It takes a higher power to keep things together in this life, and this higher power we need is God. We all need divine help, guidance, and protection. The Bible shows us God's character and teaches us how to imitate Christ and how to possess a godly character. Reading the Bible helps to keep us from sin and helps us to renew our minds daily so that we can know God's will. So we just covered a few books that I personally would recommend. And now we move on to podcasts and YouTube videos. A lot of podcasters have the chance to interview experts in this field. They share these lessons and skills with you for free through their platform. Podcasts and YouTube videos are a great resource and can be listened to while cleaning the house or sitting on your bed at night. Lastly, we have websites, online conferences, interactive classes, workshops, and events where we can find other sources of valuable information. So I implore you to make relationship and marriage education a priority. While marriage is very beautiful, there are many challenges that may arise. So educating yourself from early on will be most valuable to you and your partner. Thank you to all the listeners. I really hope that this presentation was indeed helpful.